Everybody, my name's Colin Murphy. Thanks very much for tuning into this video podcast. It's been a while since I've done one, but it's long past due. So before the podcast gets started, I'd like to confirm that I'm providing general information only relating to the real estate market, and it's just for educational purposes. You should always seek professional advice before taking any action, and actual returns on rental properties will always vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. Okay, let's get on with the show. For the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to be talking about what we've been up to in Tampa, Florida over the past couple of years, specifically how we're buying, renovating, and selling turnkey single family homes generating high 8 to 10% rental returns. So in order the order of the things we're going to discuss, first of all, brief summary of what we're actually doing in Tampa, Florida. I'm going to talk about our sourcing methods, who we buy from, how we do it, what types of properties we target, and then I'm going to take a step back, talk about the factors that drive the single family home market, what's different about single family homes, why are people so keen to rent them in 2015 compared to 1995 or 2005, some interesting things happening there. Also, very brief overview of Florida. It's obviously a place we've been involved in for a very long time, and then more specifically why we really like Tampa Bay, particularly why we're so active in Pasco County, which is in the north of Tampa Bay and northwest coast. I'm going to talk you through 3 properties that we bought and renovated in the last few months. If you like the looks of those properties, you'll definitely like the ones we're buying and renovating now. So that'll give you a very good insight into the types of properties we have to sell. Then briefly I'll talk you through some of our frequently asked questions, the ones we hear again and again, the main concerns that people that are considering these kinds of purchases have, and then finally where you need to go for further information. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. What do we do? So as you can see from these 5 bubbles, we purchase property from distressed sellers, could be distressed individuals, could be banks, could be anybody. We try and get it below market value. Then we renovate them, bring them up to code. Renovations usually include new roofs, new floors, new kitchens, new tiling, new paint, landscaping. It varies from property to property, but those kinds of things. Once that's done, we sell them turnkey to investors, typically with 8 to 10% net returns, and you'll see what I mean by net, but it's after your typical fixed costs and your variable costs. We try and take everything into account to give you a real picture of what net is, so that you actually do get what we advertise, or close enough, sometimes more. We place tenants in the property in 1-year leases. We make sure you have good tenants, and then we make sure our local partners are performing ongoing maintenance and management for you. Okay. So our property sourcing methods. First one is direct marketing. By that I mean sending usually letters or postcards to people that we think have a high probability of selling. So you've pretty sophisticated lists nowadays, where I can buy a list of people that are 90 days late on their mortgage. You can buy a list of people that are over the age of 55 that have no mortgage, that are maybe considering a property sale. You can drill down a lot. There's a lot of different secret sauces you can use to get these lists of people that have a higher than average propensity to potentially sell to somebody like me that will pay them cash and take a problem property off their hands. Wholesalers are very important. These are people that specialize in securing properties from other sellers. So a wholesaler might buy a property for $50,000. They've no interest in fixing it up and holding on to it for a couple of months. So they'll sell it to me for, let's say, $53,000 or $55,000. So very happy to do business with wholesalers. The MLS, or the multiple listing system, which is where all of the properties that are officially listed for sale with realtors are on offer. We have access to that now. So we keep a very close eye on that. Every day I'll log in and see what new properties are listed on the MLS in specific regions and specific property types. Obviously auctions are a big one. It's probably one of the more difficult ones to get used to, because there's so many things you need to be aware of with an auction. There's more dangers surrounding the title, surrounding second mortgages, things like that. Public auctions are the ones run by the local county, like Pasco County or Pinellas County, and then you have lots of private auctions from companies like auction.com, Home Search, Hubzu, people like that, and they're all different. They all have different fees, so you can get good deals though. In terms of the properties we target, so that's how we get them, and what types do we target? I mean, obviously these are single family homes. Vast majority of them are single family homes as opposed to condos or multifamily. We target safe middle class areas. We avoid low income areas. We avoid high crime areas. We try and avoid areas that have very bad schools, for example. So nice middle class areas that normal people want to live. Typically, target 3 bed, 2 bath homes measuring 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. Definitely avoid 1 bed properties or 2 bed, 1 bath properties. Sometimes we have bought large 2 bed, 2 baths and we've added a third bedroom. Other times we've added fourth bedrooms, but our typical Goldilocks property is a 1,300 square foot 3 bed, 2 bath. We try and avoid wood frame. Concrete block construction is 99% of what we buy. And again, we avoid low income areas. So we avoid properties where property values are 40 or 50,000. We avoid areas that are 150 or 250,000 as well, because the cash flows are different. Our sweet spot is at 75 to 100, $110,000. That's what we want our properties to be worth after they've been fixed up. That's what gets you the good cash flow. So what is driving the market for single family homes? Why is it, why do we think it is a good idea to invest in single family homes? I mean, one of the important things to realize is that, renting is actually an acceptable lifestyle choice, even for people on very good salaries. Sometimes you don't have the same pressure to buy that you had during the halcyon days and, from 1998 to 2005, where people got a little bit obsessed with owning their own homes. Nowadays, particularly young people, they like the flexibility of having their own rental home that they can leave at short notice to move jobs or to get a bigger place or get a smaller place depending on their, their health situation, depending on their debt situation. So very much an acceptable choice. No peer pressure to buy homes like there used to be. On the other end of the demographic, you have a lot of retirees that are, local Florida-based retirees that are downsizing from their large, 4 and 5 bed homes that used to have lots of kids in them, but now don't, and they don't need to maintain a 2,000 square foot house anymore. They're happy with a 2 bed or a 3 bed, so you get a lot of that. And clearly you also have a lot of retirees from other parts of the country, particularly in the north east coast, where people come to Florida to retire full-time or part-time. So these kinds of people rent as well. Of course, millennials, you probably heard that buzzword if you go to, any kind of conferences. Basically people that were born, from 1980 to 2000, young people, and they're a huge demographic and, predicted to make similar kind of changes to the workforce and the economy that the baby boomers did way back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And clearly millennials have different aspirations to previous generations. I mean, obviously they like their gadgets and so on, but they, when they're younger, they like living in downtown apartments near bars and restaurants and universities. When they get a little bit older, they tend to move out to the suburbs, just like their parents did, with a key difference being that they rent. A lot of them, much higher proportion, rent instead of buy. So just consider these trends, following on from that. At the moment, the US has the highest number of renters in history. There's never been more renters than now. 35% of all US housing is rented. Nearly half of all renters are families. I mean, a lot of people think renters and they picture students or young people, living with their friends in their early 20s, or very poor people that can't afford a mortgage. But no, nearly half of all renters are families, and the majority of those regular working families. So just look at this graph. I mean, this combination of low home ownership rates, a growing population, and relatively low construction is giving very fertile ground for investors. I mean, this is a home ownership rate graph. You can see all through the 60s and 70s it varied from kind of 62 to 64%. During the boom, home ownership shot up pretty dramatically, all the way up to close to 70%, and now it's falling back down just as dramatically as it went up. I mean, this is almost a perfect triangle, falling back down to its longer term average of 62, 63, 64, with the difference being that there's a much bigger population now. So this combination of long-term dependable tenants, lower rates of people looking to get their own home, lower rates of new construction, low interest rates, is very, very fertile ground for any landlord who's looking at a long-term property that will give good cash flow and good capital growth. So Florida, I mean, clearly, why are we in Florida? We have been involved in other areas of the United States. Florida is the dominant one, though. I mean, there is more to it than this picture I've put here of the palm trees and the beaches. Clearly, it's a big economy in its own right, ranked fourth out of the 50 U.S. states, and it also means it's the fourth largest employer in the U.S. It does a huge amount of international trade. I mean, as you'd probably suspect, a huge proportion of all the exports that go to Central and South America go through Florida, particularly the ports in Miami and Tampa. Tourism clearly is massive in Florida. Epicenter is in Orlando, but you've a lot of other tourism centers with more than 70 million people visiting Florida annually, which I think is more than what any other country gets. Never mind any other state. There's no country outside the US has more than 70 million visitors annually, with the exception of possibly France. Demographics in Florida are incredibly strong. About a year and a half ago, it overtook New York as the third largest state by terms of population. It's got almost 20 million people now. The only states with more people would be Texas with about 26 million and California with about 38 million. Florida's number 3 now, used to be number 4. Real estate recovery. Prices have been recovering in Florida for a long time. I mean, I remember first selling here in 2007 and 8 when prices were falling, but prices actually stopped falling in late 2010. So that was 5 years ago since we've had price falls in Florida statewide. And since then, the recovery has been very, very strong. I mean, single family homes have been increased, by 25% since then. Tax-wise, obviously it's a pretty big deal if you're owning something long-term. Tax is a consideration. There's no state tax in Florida. That's very nice. It's one of the lowest tax states in the country. Only 5 other states have a lower tax burden than Florida. Construction is picking up. Obviously, it was decimated back in 2007, 8, and 9, but you are seeing a lot of condo communities being built. You're seeing a lot of single-family homes being built. I know every time I drive around the areas I'm amazed at the huge tracts of lands that are there being turned into new single-family homes. It's a huge difference from 3 or 4 years ago. And obviously agriculture is big in Florida, particularly oranges, with about 40% of the world's oranges coming from Florida. So a very diverse economy. But obviously Florida is a big place. Why are we in Tampa? Why are we in the Tampa part of Florida and not somewhere like Orlando or Miami or Jacksonville? Well, first of all, Tampa is an important center in its own right. It's got a population of 4 million, and more importantly than that, it's growing by over 85,000 a year. It's the top fastest growing metropolitan areas in the US for the last few years. It's a $130 billion economy and the biggest job creator in Florida over the last 2 years. Huge military presence in Tampa with MacDill Air Force and US Central Command. It's also got the 7th largest commercial port in the country. A lot of students in Tampa, a very large student population. University of South Florida alone has got more than 50,000 on its campus, and you can see the impact of students anytime you go out in Tampa. But overall, low cost of living, strong healthcare, a lot of good quality hospitals in Tampa. Obviously, you've got great climate, and importantly, affordable housing. Tampa is very, very affordable compared to other major urban centers in Florida. And this kind of mix of economic advantages, cultural advantages, and natural climate advantages are very, very hard to replicate. You can't just copy what Tampa is doing. So it's going to be an important place for a very long time to come. And obviously the part of Tampa we're most interested in, I mean, we have done business all over Tampa, but we're particularly active in a county in Tampa called Pasco County, which is in just north of downtown Tampa, North Tampa Bay area. You can see it in orange there on the map. Some quick facts about Pasco. Population is just under 500,000. Median age of 44. That is a nice age for renters and for young families. 29 schools. Household incomes 44,000. Again, that is a nice level. It's not too low. Not so low that you don't get good quality tenants. It's not so high that you get a lot of people wanting to own their own home. So it is at that nice working wage level that I really like, the 40s. When I see median household income in the 40s, they're good single family home renters. Unemployment is lower, well under the Florida average, and you have median sales prices of under 80,000. Very, very affordable in Pasco, although that 80,000 or 79,500 does include condos as well as single family homes. So the single family home median sales price would be a little bit higher than that. What I like most about Pasco is that it is literally one of the few areas I've ever seen in the US or any other developed country for that matter, where you can get quality middle class properties turnkey for less than $100,000. I mean, think about that. How many places do you know? How many places where you live can you get a good quality single family home for less than $100,000? I'm thinking it's probably highly unlikely. Pasco County is one of the few areas I know where you can do it. Really nice houses, less than $100,000. There is huge pent-up demand for quality rental properties in Pasco County. Anytime obviously we've rented dozens of properties at this stage. Anytime a property is listed and we put the beautiful photos of our renovated home, inundated with applications, typically have a qualified tenant within 10 to 14 days, sometimes quicker. Our last two properties were advertised for rent on the 30th of December. We had tenants moved into them by the 8th of January. Okay, that gives you an idea. And clearly, if you have good prices and pent-up demand for quality rentals, what are you going to get? You're going to get very strong rental returns. In Pasco County, you get a house for $100,000. It rents for $1,100 a month. Other places, if you want to buy something that rents for $1,100 a month, it's going to cost you $200,000 or $250,000. So you have a really good cash flow, as you'll see in the examples I'll talk you through in a few minutes. It's clearly very well connected with Tampa's economy. It's just 20-30 minutes to the north of downtown Tampa, 10 minutes from beaches. You're generally minutes from, the major highways, schools, beaches, employers. I mean, these are typically people that, would be happy to live in downtown Tampa if they could get a single family home with a garden, but they clearly can't. They'd rather pay $1,000 for a 3-bed with a garage and a garden than $1,100 for a 2-bed condo in the city centre, particularly the people that have kids. I mean, young people that are 20 years old and going to university, they'll live in a condo downtown. Older people with families, they'd much prefer to have the space and are happy to do the 20-30 minute commute into their work in the mornings. Population in Tampa is very fast growing, estimated to grow by 20% in the next 10 years, and that could easily accelerate. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through three real properties that we bought, we renovated, and we resold turnkey to investors with quality tenants in them. So the first one is Avery Road. This was a big renovation, like $38,000 renovation that included a new roof, brand new kitchen. By new kitchen, I mean, new cabinets, new countertops, new appliances, new tile, black splash, new floors. I mean, everything completely new. Flooring all over the house. Created a 4th bedroom. Completely remodeled the house inside, fixed up the garage completely. A lot of landscaping. The house did not look like anything like that picture when we first bought it. Here's some before and after pictures. You can see here what the house looks like now. This horrible blue with a messy door, messy garage, horrible windows. Completely fixed that. Look at the state of the kitchen we found compared to what it is now with these beautiful cabinets, beautiful black appliances. The dining room, again, completely refinished. Living room, I mean, look at the difference in these living rooms. I mean, this is a huge renovation job. Property looked amazing after 35, 40 days of very hard work. So let's have a look at the finances for this property. Okay, so the purchase price for our investor was $108,150. That'd be at the higher end of the properties we sell, but wait till you see the returns were still terrific. Estimated net rental return after everything, 9.1%. And here's how it works. This property is currently rented for $1,250 per month, $15,000 per year. The tax bill in 2015 was $1,560. We're allowing a 5% vacancy allowance. We're allowing an 8% property management fees. This is your home insurance, okay? Fire, theft, damage, hurricanes, you name it. We're allowing a maintenance allowance for any repairs you might need to make during the year, although I'd be surprised if there was anything major considering how much renovation we all did it. So your total running costs, $5,113. Total income, $15,000. So that leaves a net income, $9,887, which equates to 9.1%. So that is a very nice cash flowing property. So second property is a bit cheaper. This is Jenner Avenue. Again, we did a terrific job on this. This was a 3-bed, 2 bath that we sold for $87,000 back in, I think, August or September. We put a new roof on this one. We painted the house inside and out. We put in new floors with a fenced yard, remodeled the inside into an open, took down some walls and made it an open plan living area. So here you can see some before and after pictures. Here's the kitchen before, kitchen after, horrible bathrooms, beautiful bathrooms, new vanities everywhere. Dining room, a lot of improvements made. Obviously living room, this was these horrible carpet interior walls. We opened all that up and you had this beautiful interior space. So how did the numbers look on this? Great price, $87,000 for a 3-bed. Estimated net rental return was 8% for that. Here's how the numbers work. This was rented on a 1-year lease, $895 per month, so that was just over $10,000 per year. Your taxes are $1,000. Vacancy allowance 5%. Property management 8%. We have your home insurance, your maintenance allowance. So running cost of $3,800. Just shy of $7,000 a year in net income. So that gets you an 8%. So really, really nice property, good cash flow. Third one is at the lower end again. This was a 3-bed also. It was a 2-bed that we converted into a 3-bed and we sold it turnkey to an investor for $77,000. This one we put in new floors, paint, added a 3rd bedroom, did a lot of yard work. The roof and the air conditioning in this house were already pretty new, so they didn't need to replace it. They've all got at least, I'm not sure what it is, should be at least 5 years left on them, possibly a lot more. Kitchen, I hope you'll agree, this was a very regular looking kitchen. This is a beautiful kitchen. Bathrooms, did a lot of improvements in the bathrooms. Living rooms, beautiful floors, opened it up a bit. Painting, again, dining room, same kind of thing. So this house is very, very nice. It rented very, very quickly and very easily. Purchase price $77,000. Rental return 9.3%. How good is that? So this was rented for $900 a month. So that was just over $10,800 per year. Your taxes were $800. Vacancy allowance again $540. Property management 8%. Your home insurance, your maintenance allowance. So again, these vacancy and maintenance allowance, most people won't include these when they're giving you the numbers. Most people wouldn't include insurance either. So that's $2,000 of cost that most people are going to pay that other people don't include. So when we give you the total running cost of $3,600, they're realistic, they're real. So that gives you an estimated net income, $10,000 gross, cost $3,600, $7,100 net, so 9.3%. Okay. So these are very typical examples. One for $77,000, one for $87,000, one for $108,000. 3 beds, 4 beds, single family homes, concrete built, all built in the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, typically. All very nice, very rent ready. Substantial renovations in some of them. Others don't need substantial renovations, but whatever needs to be done to make it rent ready long term will get done. You will have a very nice turnkey property. So if you like these, you like the next ones as well. So let's go through some frequently asked questions, ones that we seem to get asked again and again. I wrote a blog about this as well, which goes into a lot more detail, but let me go through some of them quickly. So, people that don't live in Florida are understandably concerned. Hurricanes and floods, aren't they big problems in Florida? I mean, clearly Florida is a very low-lying state. It borders the Gulf of Mexico. It does get its fair share of extreme weather to go with the sunshine. But the properties we purchased are concrete block. They're not located in high-risk flood areas, and they're fully insured against hurricanes, which cause very little damage to concrete built properties with new roofs in any case. Also, vast majority of our properties are located miles away from the coast. They're well inland. So really, hurricanes and floods, certainly definitely not a big deal. Hurricanes, you get hurricanes, but do they cause major damage to the properties? No, they don't. Would it be better to invest in downtown Tampa? As in, why buy, half an hour away in the suburbs when you could buy a condo in the city center? I mean, as I touched on earlier, clearly you can. The problem is the cash flow. As I say, you can buy a property, one of the properties I just showed you, for $80,000-$90,000. It'll rent for $900,000. You buy an apartment in the city center that rents for $900. It's going to cost you about $200,000. So your return on your cash is much lower. and there's no guarantee that you're going to get any capital growth that's faster than a single family home. It's unlikely. So if your aim is to protect your money and get good cash flow, I don't see why you'd want to invest in downtown Tampa when there's so much rental demand and value for money further north in the suburbs. Who's responsible for renovating the properties? I mean, look, Torcana's got more than 5 years, possibly more, of experience renovating properties in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, our general contractors that we've been working with, many of them for that whole period, only begin after we have very detailed costings and very specific deadlines that we've agreed. Our progress is carefully monitored. We visit all the properties we have under renovation several times per week. But don't forget, these are our properties. We're buying them with our money. We're paying for the renovations. We're very careful that this stuff is done on time and on budget and properly. And bear in mind, we only sell properties to investors after they've been fully renovated. Okay. Is finance available? Hear this a lot. The truth is that the vast majority of our buyers purchase these $80,000-$90,000 properties with cash. Some of them have secured finance through their own established credit lines. Some have released equity on their houses. Some go to specialist portfolio lenders. If you're buying 4 or 5, there are people that'll lend you money for those. If you're, if you want to ring up a mortgage broker and say, can I get a mortgage of $70,000 on this $90,000 property? They're most likely to say no. They don't like giving mortgages for less than $150,000 because it's the same amount of work. So that's what we found. It's, local people tend to have their own contacts. Some sophisticated investors tend to have their own finance available. Vast majority of our buyers, they pay in cash and perhaps they refinance afterwards. Does this part of Florida have a high crime rate, as in Pasco County or Tampa? The truth is no. Pasco is well under both the Florida average and the US average for violent crimes and non-violent crimes, literally half the averages of those two. So it's a very low crime area with normal family people, retirees. It is not in the slightest bit dangerous. So you get that much more in inner cities, not in cozy suburbs. Okay, so that is definitely not a concern. What's the purchase process? Obviously, we can go into this in more detail with you in some of our reports and brochures, but generally $1,000 deposit. This is obviously after you've spoken with us, after you've chosen a property that you're happy with, and we've answered all your questions. $1,000 deposit paid to a licensed title agent. We'll give you as much time as you need, typically 7 to 10 days, to do any additional inspections you want, to come down and see it personally. We generally like to close within 3 weeks. So if you reserve a property on the 1st of March, you generally buy it on the 20th of March. I mean, bear in mind, these are rent-ready properties. Many of them will have tenants already in there by the time you close. Okay, so that's the purchase process. We're coming to the end of the slide now. Thanks very much for paying attention. Look, this is a competitive market. It's not that easy to get properties at the prices we do with the margins we have that enable you to get your 9%, your 8.5% net rental returns. Pretty limited supply of them to sell. It's not like we have 30 or 40 to sell every month, nothing close to it. So we sell these properties to a small number of people every month, and the people that we do sell them to are those that make an effort to talk to us, to call us, tell us what they're interested in, come and visit us. But the main thing is just to speak with us, email us, let's schedule a conversation, and literally just take it from there. You can call me at any of these numbers, or Skype, or email me. I'll be very happy to get back to you and schedule a call within 24 hours. If you want to learn more about these areas, I'd highly recommend you go to our blog, info.torcana.com. I try and write at least 2 or 3 a month. But a lot of blogs in there going back for years and years, and the last 15 or 20 of them particularly deal with this part of Tampa and these types of homes, and each blog generally has links to further information, so do visit that and have a look. Obviously the main website, www.torcana.com, that's where you'll find our property listings, our ebooks, our buyer's guides, our reports on the market. A lot of useful information on that website as well. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. This recording contains general information relating to the real estate market, and it is for educational purposes only. Buyers should always seek appropriate legal, tax, and financial advice from suitably qualified professionals before entering into any real estate transaction. Actual returns from rental properties will always vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. While we have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of any guests on our show, we do not warrant their accuracy. Opinions of the host are not necessarily shared by other employees and partners of Torcana and its subsidiaries.